Now 250,000. Now, but you get 275. High, but you get 275. 3. Now 300,000. Now 3 1/4, 325. High, but you get 3 1/4, but you get 325. Now half. Now, but you get 300. And hello from Dallas, Texas. It's the Mike McGavel Jones Show in Dallas at the corner of the Dallas North Tollway, or the North Dallas Tollway, however you want to say it, and the LBJ Freeway right here at Lincoln Center. And we are excited and proud to have a friend with us this morning that is looking at pursuing the position of mayor of Dallas, and that would be Lynn McBee. Good morning, Lynn.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here today.
I'm thrilled that you are here today. Got a lot to talk about. You have a lot on your mind. You have, I'm going to talk about a few things. You are a is that right, seventh generation Texan?
That's correct.
Tell me about that.
Seventh generation. My great-great-great-great-grandmother was Emily Austin, and she's the sister of Stephen F. Austin. So back to the original 300 settlers in Dallas.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
A long time.
That's a lot of greats.
Yeah.
You were born in Freeport, Texas. And tell me about your childhood.
Yeah. Freeport, Texas, if you don't know, it's a small town on the Gulf Coast. It's about 13,000 people. And it's mainly, you've got Dow Chemical there and BASF, so it's a lot of petrochemicals. But it's a beautiful little community aside from that. It's got a beach area, and had a great childhood growing up. I had, two sisters and, really tight-knit grandmother and great-grandmother, and we all would get together on Sunday afternoon and do puzzles and have lunch, and just a lot of when you're in a small town, it's just a good feel.
Tell me about your parents.
Yeah, so my mother is still alive. She graduated from SMU, so she's a pony graduate, and she actually taught fourth grade for a little bit when I was growing up. And then my father was the first generation in his family to go to college, and he went to college on the GI Bill. Went to UT Austin, has a degree in mathematics, and he worked at the Austin Electric Company at night to put himself through school. So kind of two different types of worlds emerging, and just a real strong push in education. Grew up with, reading to my mom at night, my dad doing math flashcards, and so just a real strong public education growing up.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it was a different time, too.
It was a different time.
Everything's different.
It is.
We were talking before the show. You lived in Freeport. When I think I went 7th grade or so in Corpus, and then ended up in Houston, which that's where all the high school went down. You were into music somewhat. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I grew up playing the piano and also playing the oboe. And the oboe, it's an interesting instrument. It was, in about 4th grade, they have you take these math and science aptitude tests. And I scored real high on the math aptitude. And it's known that, science and music, kind of go hand in hand. And they said, well, why don't you think about playing the oboe? We haven't had anybody play the oboe here in ages. And I was like, what's the oboe? And my mother grew up playing the clarinet. And they were like, well, it kind of looks like the clarinet. It's, the coloring and it is nothing like a clarinet. It's a double reed instrument. It's very hard to play, but I mastered it. I conquered it, through just diligent practice. And so, yeah, grew up playing the oboe and the piano.
Now, how old were you when you did this?
Yeah, 6th grade. So how old are you in 6th grade? Are you 12? I forget.
I
don't know either.
See, you're asking math questions.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
That's not my department.
I know. When I came in, your colleague asked me how long I'd known you, and I said, 2002. And I said, how many years is that? And he said, 17. I was like, yeah, I'll show you. So nobody's doing basic math this morning. Wow.
That's right. Don't ask me.
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
ask me. And we are going to talk about your philanthropic efforts here in Dallas, and a lot of things. You are currently the Chief Executive Officer of Young Women's Prep Network.
That's right.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a network of 8 public schools across Texas. It was started here in Dallas at the Irma Hill School, which is a school down in South Dallas near Fair Park. It's a school for girls that are grades 6 through 12 that are economically disadvantaged, first generation to go to college, and we are the private investor in the schools, and so we put money in the areas that we know will change their outcomes and get them through college. And so since we were founded, 100% of our girls have graduated from high school, 100% have been accepted to college, and last year in our network of schools we had 358 young girls earned $53 million in academic merit scholarships.
That's
so
awesome.
You talk about like breaking cycles of poverty. It's investment in public education, investment in education that's going to get people out of those situations.
You and I have known each other long enough I know all the different things that I don't know everything, but the list of causes, both nationally, locally, regionally, and internationally, I'm aware of. I think one of the things that's frustrating for most, I'm going to say many Americans, not most, but many Americans, is the lack of investment at home. And so that's exactly what you're doing. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but every Saturday I sell the cars for Texans Canned Cars for Kids.
Oh, that's a great program.
And I've been with them now for almost, well, we're going on 10 years.
Wow.
So every single Saturday from, we start at 9, I go on at 10, but from 10 o'clock until around 2 in the afternoon, we're selling cars, and those cars and boats and things are going to the schools from Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, all over the Metroplex, Fort Worth. Those funds are invested in getting kids who've dropped out of high school, and a lot of the disadvantaged kids, putting them back in the system, helping them attain and obtain a high school diploma, and then helping them, the best and the brightest, into college. And so we're kind of running parallel, and we're both working in South Dallas because I'm right off of 67 and Camp Wisdom.
A lot of development down there.
I love that. I love that. You, for 22 years, have worked with New England Biolabs, which is a privately held biotech firm. Tell me about that.
Based in Boston. I was an early hire after I finished my degree in biochemistry from UT Austin. I was hired, I think I was employee 74 of a company that's now over 500 people. And when you're on the ground floor of a startup, I mean, you get to do everything. And I started in the Boston area. I was in basic, research scientist in the lab. And then they moved me into the business development group. And as a young woman, I was across the United States and even in Latin America setting up different partnerships for distribution of our products, subsidiaries and distributorships, working on those arrangements. And so you get to do a lot of things when you're in, on a ground floor. And it's a company today that's a leader in genomic research. So it was an incredible journey, and it's a great company. And I was lucky, to land a job like that. And you don't realize at the time when you're that age. I was 23, and you're just.
Now, was that right out of UT?
So after I finished UT, I went down to Baylor College of Medicine for a little bit. I thought, well, maybe I'll get my PhD, and then I thought, no, I don't want to do that. And so I was just applying for a job. And they picked up my CV, and they were like, we want to interview you. So I flew up to Boston. You can imagine. I mean, I was 23. I was like, okay, we're going to go on this journey, and so it's a great company.
That's amazing stuff. So you leave. I guess, were you living in Boston?
Yeah, I lived there for 2 years, and then I moved back to Dallas and kind of made that my home office, because Dallas with the airport, it's easy to get to. And I was going to the East Coast and the West Coast, and I went down to Mexico and Argentina and a lot of places for New England Biolabs.
They just kept running you out of places. So you came back to Dallas in '94.
That's right. Okay. '94.
And then when did you get married?
Wow. So we've been married. I will tell you that. What's today's date? The 18th, 17th, 18th.
No, I think. What is it, Zach?
Is today the 18th?
Today is the 18th.
I'm sorry. I'm on this campaign thing. So tomorrow is our 19th wedding anniversary, and we got married in 2000. 2000 plus 19 years is 2019. So tomorrow's our 19th wedding anniversary.
Well, happy almost anniversary to you and Alan.
Thank you.
And of course, Alan's he's an oil and gas guy.
He is. Yep. Yeah. It's as a matter of fact, it's a fourth generation company, I believe. He had, it's family. It's just been at it for
a long time.
A long time. Yeah. A lot of East Texas development and Yep.
Well, oil and gas, it's close, near and dear to my heart. My grandfather and my mother worked for an oil and gas company back in the 50s and 60s. So, and in fact, we were with Halliburton. So we were very involved with that. All right. So, oil and gas, you don't sleep.
So I'm trying to get more sleep because my team that's managing this campaign is like, you must be rested. You cannot go into debates and forums and not be. So I have backed it up about 3 hours, well, maybe 2 hours. I don't want to tell a fib. So I'm trying to get in bed earlier, but I don't by nature need a lot of sleep. But anyway, I'm making it a priority.
Well, what I've discovered myself, I would run on no sleep. I would run on 3, maybe 4 hours sleep. I'd stay up late, I'd get up early, and that was all good and fine. But now, as I've gotten older, I'm finding, you know what? I actually like to sleep. It's not a bad thing. And now, in the last 6 months, I've learned what a nap is.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing.
Especially like a little 20-minute one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In your car. I know.
So when you were back in Freeport, is that where you got involved with Meals on Wheels?
Yeah. So in that little town, and when you grow up in a small town, I mean, you definitely, it's a neighborly environment. Everybody does, what they can to help their neighbor. And so when the call went out, our family was always doing canned food drives, coat drives, everything, public book library, drives. And my family was, one of the first people to kind of get the Meals on Wheels program off the ground there in Freeport. And so it's something that when I moved to Dallas was one of the first things that I got involved in was Meals on Wheels, which is under the umbrella of the Visiting Nurse Association. And they've got a lot of their great programs. And, it was from there that I just started getting more and more involved in the community.
I guess probably 15 to 20 years ago, I got involved with VNA and Meals on Wheels with Roger Staubach.
That's right. That was a great fundraiser.
And Marianne.
Yep.
And I'm sure we saw each other there.
I bet so.
There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we did that a long time.
Yeah,
that was
Wheels
fun.
for Meals and more. We had a lot. It was a fundraiser. It was a fun theme.
A lot of race car stuff.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was fun. Your hobbies? I've looked into this.
All right.
You like to run.
I do.
Do you still run a lot?
I still am. And we were just talking. It's the older you get, I'm like, oh man, come on, body.
Are you doing the marathon thing?
You know what? I've done 4 marathons in my life, and would like to do another one. It's just there's not a lot of time for training right now in a marathon. I mean, I'm getting on a run every day, but it's not, it's not what I would need to do to train up. But I'd like to do 1 or 2 more.
Yeah. You like movies?
Love them.
I know that you've chaired some things related to the film industry here in Dallas,
That's
the
right.
Dallas Film Festival.
Yep.
Traveling, you've traveled a ton.
Yeah.
You're a reader.
I am.
So that goes back to your education.
That's
thing.
right. Yeah.
See, I was liberal arts, so I was talking about reading.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I was like all the sciences, and but I do enjoy reading. But again, I mean, everything's really focused on this campaign. It's really intense. The election's May 4th, so a lot of content, a lot of stuff in a very short period of time.
Say the date for the election again, because people don't realize that this election is coming up.
Quickly.
Because you always hear about the national election
in November,
and everything's in November, but this is not in November.
No.
And we had a lot of people come. Amazingly, a lot of people came out to be mayor of Dallas.
That's right. I think there's 10.
Well,
or 9.
We had 3 drop.
Okay.
And I got the list this morning.
There you go.
Yeah, because I'm certainly interested to see who the suspects are.
There you go.
And so let's see what we have here. We have
how many?
We have 9 now.
9. Okay. Yeah.
And it's quite a diverse group of people.
It is, which is great for Dallas. It speaks to people engaged in all over the city. So I'm excited about that.
Well, the best for a novice on the outside looking in, no one can say that we're a good old boys network.
Right. Yeah.
You can't say that.
There's a lot of good diversity on our pool.
And former Mayor Laura Miller, who loves Jerry Jones so much, just announced that she's coming back. She wants to be a council member.
That's right.
And which is a lot of people are like, whoa, what's that about?
Yeah.
So I think that should be interesting. I want to talk about some things that you want to do, and I kind of look at what you've done. I mean, guys, when you look at the number, have you ever counted up how many organizations you've worked with? Because I'm looking at, I broke it out this morning. I go, okay, I'm doing my research in your leadership. And you're not just a board member, typically. You end up chairing the event, whatever the event is. And I mean, it's all over the place. And you and I met because of the Cattle Barons Ball here at American Cancer Society. And then that led over to, we did an event for women in Mexico.
We did, yeah.
Chiapas?
It was. And I'll tell you, that was about microfinance and really lifting women up in small areas of Mexico by giving them like mini loans. And so we would, we were raising money for the little, it's a microfinance. And it's a great model because we know when we invest in women that they, invest in their children, they invest in their family, and then they invest in their community. And so it's, you did help with that. And I think the Visiting Nurse Association, I was thinking of all the ways that I knew you might have even done something with Habitat for Humanity. We've done a lot of things together.
We have. And I was going through the list, and I said, I remember that. And you've been a board member of the Salvation Army.
I have.
I work with the Salvation Army even now.
Super organization.
The Dallas Historical Society.
That's right. That's right.
If you're proud of Dallas, you have to love that. The Family Place.
Yes.
They've been calling me like crazy trying to get me to do their auction. And my problem is there's not enough days anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the calendar. There really is. You
have been, if my math, which my math is terrible, by the way. I can figure commissions really fast.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. But you've been involved in over 50, 60 groups just based on this right here. Yeah. And I'm looking at the notes, and I'm just amazed. And you should be commended for that. TACA is another one that you and I have done.
Yeah, I do love my arts. And that TACA, the Arts Community Alliance, that makes grants to small, medium, and large-sized arts organizations. It's a great mission.
You were quoted in D Magazine.
Okay. Uh-oh.
No, they asked you what made you a great fundraiser.
Okay.
Okay. And there was one word that came to mind, and it was relationships. Yeah. And you were quoted as saying, it's just that personal ask. I'm very old school when it comes to fundraising. I know the world has gone to emailing and texting. That's not the appropriate way to make any kind of meaningful ask for something, and it's also not the way I like to maintain my relationships. I'd rather visit with the person, sit down and tell them what the project's about, and see if it lines up with what they're doing.
That's right.
Sounds like politics.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, I'd love to sit down with everybody and love to have conversation with everybody, but unfortunately, it's a lot of people I have to meet. So the emailing and the texting, it's just kind of I think the way of the world. But I am very old school by nature, that I'd like to sit down, have a cup of coffee, talk about what's on their mind and on my mind, and make that connection and form a relationship. And so
the second thing that came to my mind was your philosophy, and you're talking. It says. This is a quote. You're also talking to the eternal optimist. I'm like, we can get it done. We can do it. If someone is telling me no, I always think they just need more information.
That's right.
That sounds like a campaign.
If you're telling me no, you need more information to say yes.
and see, this is, these things are not new.
No, that's
who you are.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Get into the meat and potatoes. Here.
Okay.
All right. And I just made my own notes, and I said Lynn McBee wants to be mayor. Why?
Yeah. Wow. So, I think after spending 25 years working on some of Dallas's really challenging issues and homelessness and domestic violence and human trafficking, and then, all the work I've done with education, and seeing that when you are in a leadership role, either part of a team or leading the team, and you are able to get all different stakeholders together to align behind the mission of what you're trying to accomplish, that you can get it done. And I look at kind of city councils. You've got 14, city council members, and as mayor, you want to align everyone behind the mission of what's going to lead to the best quality of life, the best outcome for Dallas. And so it's really kind of a skill set, and it's just kind of the knowledge that I have, and just knowing what we need to take care of right now, and really having a desire to want to continue my service and make things good for people that live in Dallas.
You talked about homeless. How do we fix it?
Yeah. So right now, we just did the point in time count, and they're waiting for the number to come out. But one of the things that we've got going on in Dallas is we've got people, and I can speak to the Bridge, where I've been intimately involved for almost 10 years. We see about 1,000 people a day, but we can only sleep about 350 at night. So we've got great partnerships with Dallas Life and StuPod and Our Calling and the Salvation Army, a lot of really great organizations in this space working on City Square, working on homelessness. And we've got, though, 100 people that have worked our program, and they're ready for a permanent supportive living environment, meaning, voucher ready, and we need a place where they can go and they can have wraparound services and they can live. And unfortunately, there's not hardly any permanent supportive housing. So it's kind of like a clog in the pipe. We've got people that if we could have the permanent supportive living environments, we could move them out of the Bridge, and we could bring 100 more people in. So it's really, it's that. And it's also, we have people at the bridge when they come in, and I've done intake, and you're trying to right away when they come in, reconnect them with the family or reconnect them with something, find out what benefits they're eligible for so you can get them back on their feet. And it's things like, one bad health episode, one paycheck. So we have people that are just so many people that are living right on the brink of just bad poverty that we find that you wouldn't typically, see in a place like the bridge. So we need to get on top of, the situation that we've got. We're number 3 in childhood poverty in Dallas. And so that's, we've got a lot of things to be really proud of, but we've got some things that we've got to get a handle on.
You kind of look at, as an outsider, I like being on the outside looking in. And I told you earlier I was a journalism major in college, and I feel like I'm kind of a journalism person even today. I'm not writing for a newspaper, but I like asking important questions, and I like getting to the root of why somebody wants to do something and what they're going to do to make a change. Yeah. You talk about education. You're already in the education business. I won't call it a business really, but it is a business. I mean,
we're investing in public education. We're an investor in making sure that public education across the state is strong. And 95% of kids go through the public education system, so we can't just give up on public ed. And it's I'm a huge champion of public education. I had a great public education growing up.
We have seen, of course, I moved to Dallas around 1983-84. I lived on the tollway when it was a street, when it ended right here at this building.
Wow.
And we've seen the white flight. It's consistent with 30, 40 years ago. We had lots of people. White America was in Oak Cliff. A lot of them have moved to Frisco, Plano. What are we going to do to South Dallas and Oak Cliff specifically? Now, we do have a lot of young professionals who have bought some of the older homes. I have a lot of friends down in Kessler Park and areas like that. But what are we going to do to revitalize? So many times politicians think throwing money at something is the answer. And we've discovered that just throwing money is not always the answer.
Right.
We saw what we were able to do with Clyde Warren Park, what a difference that made, even to that section of Dallas. People wouldn't have built a high-rise there thinking about having a neighborhood park that you could play over a freeway.
Right.
What are we going to do with South Dallas? Because I drive it every week. Every Saturday I drive through South Dallas, and I'm going, what can we do here?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there are some good things that are going on right now. You've got the development at Redbird Mall, so we're starting to have some, it's going to be tax incentives, it's going to be low-income tax credits, it's things like that get developers to invest. Other things, though, we have to look at, and, I'm proud because I do see things really turning with DSD right now. I mean, it was when you were talking about people moving to the suburbs, it was that they just didn't think our school system was strong enough. And Dallas Independent School District last year scored an 80 on the TEA accountability rating, which for an urban district of our size and with economic disadvantage, numbers that we have, it's really strong. And all the early college, high schools, and the different schools of choice. So I think, we're going to get to a point that people are like, what, DSD is so strong. I want to keep my child in school here. And so, you've got to have that as the, the connection. I think we're already seeing that. And then you have to look at things like mobility. Is our DART system, is it effective and efficient in moving people around? And so there's the argument that no, it is not. And we need to, figure out how you can kind of use a data-driven approach to look at how we're going to move our people, and probably not investing in more concretes, because cars, I mean, if you think about 10 years down the road, will cars be on the road, or will it be, it'll be a lot less, kids are opting out. We were growing up, you wanted to get your driver's license and go drive, and now they don't. Now it's, Uber and Lyft and all these different companies that are, corralling people along. And so you think, as we sit here and think about, 10 years down the road, what our city will look like, I think you'll, the self-driving car, there's just a different way. So I think, mobility and connecting people in neighborhoods to jobs. And so there's a lot of, but it's going to take very intentional investment in South Dallas. But there are different ways that we can get there for sure.
Tell me what your position is with the Dallas Police Association. We went through a really difficult time here a year or so ago with the shootings in South Dallas. The police seem to be targeted a lot. And when I say that, I mean there's so much negative press about a lot of things. There may not be anything negative about what someone's doing, but it's that perception. And so how do you deal, how will you deal with the police association and the sheriff's departments and all, because I'm telling you, crime, drugs, we still deal with it in a big way in Dallas. How are you going to approach that?
So, we're down right now in the force in DPD. We're down about 30%. So we're at 1.3 million people in Dallas, and we've got about 2,900 policemen. So we're really down in terms of the numbers. So right now we need to invest and recruit. And the police did just have a pay increase, I think, to $60,000. I think we need to look at, can we get it closer to $70,000, have the right benefits package, and then start talking about, if you're going through the school and you're being trained, that you stay for a couple 3 years, that you don't, a lot of police, they get their training and then they go to some of our surrounding areas because the quality of life on the job is, not as difficult and trying. So I think we've got to, it's my number one priority. If we're going to, none of the other stuff matters. I can talk about basic services and education and many things, but if we don't have a safe city and we don't have, a good relationship with the police and the citizens, then it's a non-starter. So we've got to invest and, and celebrate our police as the professionals that they are.
I think you kind of led right into some controversial things I'm going to ask you right now.
Okay.
And then I've got some other stuff too.
Okay.
But I really want people to know when we show this, because, and I told you I'm going to invest in showing this because I want people to know who you are, what you believe. The city council just made the announcement that they're going to remove the Confederate soldier statues inside of a cemetery in Dallas, in downtown Dallas. Do you think that is the best investment of $500,000 when we can't hire enough police, can't hire enough fire, have potholes everywhere? Is that a real priority for this city?
So you know what I think what a real priority for the city would be, so they just did $300,000 for a football game that I understand like maybe 1,600 people went and watched. And so I think you look at things like that $300,000. I think what we have to be very careful about right now is that we need to make sure that everybody feels included and that people are not feeling like they're, the theme of my campaign is quality of life for all and parity across the city. And so if you're going to talk about parity, it goes down to like how you and I feel when we're in a space. And so if there's uncomfortableness and people are upset, that's a non-starter. So I think there are ways to garnish more, resources in terms of like the budget and what are some of the places we need to be looking at, like do we do these football games and are there other things. But I think to the overarching what you asked me, I think we need to be in this day and time. This is a discussion that's taking place all over the United States, and we need to make sure that people feel good.
I don't think everybody's feeling good. I got on social media this morning and researched it again today. Just what are the people saying? What are people saying? And, I understand. I follow the news as much as anybody. I read as many newspapers, more than anybody. And the pulse of are we in a divided city? Are we a divided city?
So yes. And so when I talk about, parity for all, we really, it's hard for me to, when I go down to South Dallas and I go down and I look at, when we talk about quality of life, and I talk to someone when I'm walking the streets and canvassing in North Dallas, they want to talk about potholes and traffic noise, which are both very important things. When I go down to the South, it's, do I have clean water? Is my child going to get eaten by a horrible dog? Is the trash being picked up? And then roads, and then other things. And so I don't feel good about what's going on at all. And so how do we adjust so that everybody's got the best quality of life and that we do feel like we are equal? And that's not going on right now. So that's, investment in the South. That's making sure people feel included in decisions when we're working on things in the South, making sure that we've got people around the table that are reflective of the community. Because I think a lot of times it's just, it's human nature. And I know that it's a bad thing. I think people come in like, well, I want to help. But if you don't have the right people at the table, if you don't have the community leaders, you don't have the people that have grown up in South Dallas, then you're not, it's kind of a non-starter. So I think it's one of these things that we've got to, when we invest in South Dallas, we need to make sure that we've got the right people at the table to help and to advise, because the problems that are being dealt with are so much more drastic than what we've got going on the north. So you could argue that, yes, we are two cities trying to live as one city, and we need to, I mean, as mayor, we've got to stop that. I mean, it's got to be one city. We've got to have investment in the South. We've got to make sure people feel included in the decisions that we're making, and that we're living harmoniously together.
We need reasonable people that are educated in leadership.
There's no doubt.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I think another thing that is missed is the large number, the big demographic, which seems to be ignored a lot, and that's the Hispanic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is our percentage of Hispanics in Dallas?
You know what? I've heard 40%, but I'm not sure. I mean, I can't. We could probably get your colleague to pull it up real quick, but it seems like I heard 40%. You know, I grew up in South Texas, and it was, when I was growing up, 65% was Hispanic.
Sure.
And so, and I tell you what, hardworking, getting that education, you know, so just really, if I could say anything, I'd love to see the Hispanics show up and vote. And, you know, that's been a lower voting turnout, but, you know, we need everybody showing up to vote. And so that's been something with my girls' network, where the girls here in Dallas are probably 65 to 70% Hispanic over at Armor on Hell, really making sure that if you're 18 years and older that you go show and vote. You know, it's your right. You can do that.
Sure.
So,
well, it's really funny for me, you know, living in North Dallas. However, I do a lot of work in South Dallas. And I can tell you that the average person, doesn't matter what color they are, what creed they are, what religion they are, it doesn't matter. We all seem to get together and get along really well, and we have a great time. And when I'm doing my auction with Dallas Can or Texans Can, whatever we're calling it, the people have a great time. And I want to mix it up with them. You know, I mean, I want to give them a fun experience. And then you turn on the TV and it's like all this negative stuff, and I'm just like going, I
didn't see that.
I live in a different America than some of the politicians do. I really do. And the news media, I think, carries it a little bit too far sometimes too.
Well, I think it's, you know, the happy stories, I think they say never lead, and there are a lot of happy stories, and there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of good things that are happening in Dallas, but we need more of those, and we definitely have to. I mean, you're down in the South, we've got to invest more, and we've got to make sure that we've got a little bit more equity across the board. It's not, it's getting away from us.
What, I know you've been involved in the bridges. And the Trinity Grove area. Tell me what your vision is for Trinity Grove area, out west, Singleton area, and all that.
So the first bridge, the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge, was something that a group of us came together, and it was, it's an iconic piece that's a part of the Dallas skyline now. So that's, there's that architectural piece, but it really was what started to open up West Dallas, with Trinity Groves. And I think, one of the lessons, and as we, continue to develop more neighborhoods, if there was one kind of takeaway that you think, wow, we did good, but if we could do it a little bit better, is when you're talking about developing neighborhoods, making sure, again, it goes back to having the members of the neighborhoods at the table when you're developing, so that they don't feel left out, and that we make sure that they can stay in their homes, and that the community continues to feel like their community. And I think that's something, as we develop and grow, that we've got to be mindful of as we develop different neighborhoods, that you've got families that have lived in their 5 generations, and sure, it'd be easy to go in and just kind of plow, but we can't do that. We need to make sure that people are able to stay in their homes, that we've got thoughtful growth. But that definitely did start to develop the West Dallas area, which is.
Do you have concerns about the people who live in West Dallas who now economically can't afford to own their homes?
I do.
What do we do about that?
I think you got to look at things like, do you freeze property taxes? Do you, It's things. It's like that. I mean, I don't know.
It's always sad to price people out of where they were born and raised.
It is,
and they wake up and developers have developed everything.
It's like the ultimate eminent domain, I guess, if you really think about it, right?
It's catch-22,
right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think, looking at, again, when you're starting to develop one of those neighborhoods, having people from the neighborhood at the table that can say, wait a second, we like that, but we don't like that, because it's their neighborhood. And so, being open to having, those meetings and making sure that you're bringing them along, and then looking at things like, do we need to freeze your property taxes? What are the things that we need to do? And if you want to ride the market up and then you want to sell, then that's great. Then you get to
cash in.
You do. But, I think it's not, I mean, I'm a compassionate, thoughtful person. It's not a place that I would lead from just in terms of taking people out of their homes.
That leads me, you were such a great leader.
Oh, okay.
You're leading me right into the discussion about Amazon in New York City.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So that's almost what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Did you see all the coverage of that debacle?
Yeah.
Now here is a city, New York City, that needs economic development on that side, not the city. The city's got plenty of things going on, but here you had this unbelievable advantage to bringing Amazon in across the bridge, and then you have leadership standing outside screaming and yelling about inequality on wages and things of that nature, or tax benefits that they don't believe should be given to these big corporations. Now they've lost it, and now it's the blame game. Everybody's blaming everybody. So tell me what your belief system is in regard to tax incentives to major corporations like Amazon and Walmart, things like that.
I mean, I am a pro-business. I mean, I want to attract business because that's how we continue to make our economic engine go forward. But I think some of the things that, and I wasn't privy to any of the things that were offered to Amazon when we were courting them. But I think some of the things that you look at is you say to Amazon or another company, you say, yes, we'd like to have you here, but we want you to hire, 50% of the people local. And if you say that we're not job ready and they're not trained up, then we want to put them through the Dallas County Community College District or another so they get that skill and trade, so that we're investing in people here, people that have lived here, that have called this place home, and then we're not just bringing in a big company and then you're importing a lot of culture, and you're not taking care of what's been here. And so it just, again, it's not an either or, it's a both and. It's like, yes, business, we want you to come, but with that, hire locally. Help us get our job force, ready. And
I think one of the things that I noticed in the Amazon talks specifically here for North Texas was public transportation, and you touched on DART and where we are with that. What's your thoughts? I mean, what are we going to do? Buses, I don't think, are the answer. I don't think buses have really ever been the answer. I mean, you look at Chicago. They've got their they've got the train. They got the L, and you go to New York City, and they've got the underground subway system. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, so I've had a couple of meetings with Patrick Kennedy, who's a board member for DART, and asking him kind of some of those questions. And there are good plans, but I think it just in my mind, it's like, are we looking at the data? Are we moving people the way we need to move them? Are we moving them in an efficient way, in an effective way? And if not, like, how do we make those bus routes work for what we've got now? And then it's a matter of really kind of projecting out and looking at, I imagine other big cities are doing this. They're saying 10 years from now, what are our cities going to look like? It's going to be more walkability we need. It's going to be more, however you feel about scooters and bikes, it's going to be more scooters and bikes. It's going to be things that get people out of cars. And then you're going to these like driverless cars. And so before we start investing a lot more, big ways to move people, I think we need to think about 10 years from now. Because if you think about, would you ever have thought Blockbuster was going to go away? Would you ever have thought any of these things that were just kind of just mainstays, but just, digital streaming and how people see movies. And so you don't need to go to the store and
people are working from home.
Yeah.
I rarely go to the store anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I order my food. I order pretty much everything that I need is delivered at my door by somebody.
Yeah.
And it's the way of the world.
Yeah. I hope we continue to connect with people, though. You bring up a good point. You can think about being at home and getting all your food delivered, and you can get Amazon, you can get everything delivered, and not interacting, and then you're acting with your phone, and then people quit talking because their phones are just talking, and it goes back to that just kind of the basic, like, I want to sit down with you and have a cup of coffee with you, and we can't lose that. I mean, that's what makes that human connection. That's what makes us human, right? Is that we want to connect and we want to learn, and so but. Back to mobility, I think we have to forecast out what is it going to look like in a city to move people 10 years down the road.
10 years, 20 years.
Yeah, well, that's even, It
seems crazy.
Yeah, it is crazier.
So as we wrap up the show,
why
don't you just, from the heart, just tell the people kind of how you feel and just give me your wrap up and then I'll do mine.
Yeah. Well, I think, after, again, 25 years of serving Dallas, I'd be honored to serve it in the biggest way possible and really work to bring a group together to continue to make positive change in our city and get on top of some of the things that are really troubling me that we talked about, the North and the South, and how we do make that equal, such that we can kind of live here and feel good about living in this harmonious city that we have. I would tell everybody to get out and vote on Saturday, May 4th, because it's not a November election. It's Saturday, May 4th.
Let me write that down.
Saturday, May 4th. And also go to lynnmcbee.com and sign up to stay informed about my election. And I would be honored to have everybody's support. And there's nobody, I'm not a politician, and there's nobody that would work harder, that would think smarter, and that would get things done more than me. So I'd be honored to have everybody's vote.
You may have to go to 2 hours of sleep.
There you go. Exactly.
So now, if they want a yard sign,
yes,
or anything, if they want anything to back you, because it says something, and of course, and I'm very careful about endorsements because I want people to look at me as an independent, and you're an independent. I'm an independent. I think the current presidential situation, regardless of whether you like him or you don't like him, the people voted for him because they were sick of politics as usual. One of the problems that I see in Dallas, Texas, is that we have had a lot of politics as usual in different arenas, whether it's City Hall and Mike Rollins and I are friends. I like everybody. And Ron Kirk's going to be on this show here in the next few weeks. And so, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, I just want someone who cares enough to get up and fight for the city of Dallas and North Texas and work with everybody. And I know your record. I'm a fighter. there's nobody that puts in more time than you do, or you have, and hence we've known each other for close to 20 years. And so anyway, I wish you very well with the election.
Thank you.
And if they need a sign, or if they want to, or work, if they want to work the phone for you, or call their friends, they can go to lynnmcbee.com.
That's right. Yep, and sign up. Yep. Okay. I would love to have, signs and canvassing and phones and whatever time anyone's got to do.
There's not a lot of time for this election.
There's not.
When you look at it,
May 4th.
We had 9 people come out. There were 3 more that ultimately did not qualify, and they were dropped from the ballots and stuff. But Saturday, May the 4th, and in my opinion, we are at the tipping point in the city of Dallas. I think it is time for people to understand that it is urgent. This is not minor. Everything that happens going forward, we had our little utopia period of time where we were in that early growth period. Love Field was out in the middle of nowhere. Skyscrapers were going up. Southwestern Insurance Building was downtown. We used to think the Mobile Building was the highest point. But we're at that point now. We have brilliant growth to come, but it's going to take brilliance in leadership to make it to the shining city we want it to be going forward. So, Lynn,
yes,
thank you for running for mayor. We wish you well, regardless of whether you win or you don't win. We know you're going to continue to be a shining light for the city of Dallas, and you'll work with us no matter what. But I wish you very well.
Thank you.
And Zach, I'm going to wrap this thing up. You good?
All right. Yeah, I'm great. Yeah, no, great.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate Zach.
Me on.
You bet. We appreciate Zach being our producer as always. And on behalf of everyone at the Mike McGavel Jones Show here in North Dallas at Lincoln Center, we wish you very well. Make sure you go out and vote on May the 4th. We need you to vote. Get it out. Make it happen. And we'll see you next time. God bless, and we bid you adieu.